Segregation to End Racism movement is taking hold, and we've had this in the United States as a kind of a meme, but also real because critical race theory on college campuses, which is that they wanted like segregated dorms or segregated unions or segregated whatever, for only black people in the American vernacular, to be separated from the whites who are their evil oppressors. And when white student unions started propping up, people were like, oh crap, what have we unleashed?
It's really amazing it's got to this point, hasn't it? If you were to say to someone like 10 years ago, by the way, segregation is coming back.
Yeah, so we're doing it in Britain, specifically in Wales. And you might think, who gives a crap about Wales? And you're not the only one. But the funny thing in here is, of course, that the Welsh government have fully endorsed this. And we can actually see a legitimate state, because it is the Welsh Parliament who have their own devolved powers, enacting intersectional theory into law and into the way they're going to run the country. So I look forward to it turning into another socialist hellhole, except this time next door to us. But we can have a look at what they're proposing. So this is the Race Manifesto. You would have thought, maybe no, but maybe don't talk about your race manifesto, your race, what is it, the Welsh Race Forum they've set up.
It doesn't have a particularly good historical precedent, does it?
Yeah, you would have thought at some point.
Here's my manifesto on race.
Yeah.
I mean, that's never gone down well
and again,
historically.
The narrative of like, oh, it's just on college campuses, bro, don't worry. Okay, now it's in the government right next door to where I live. Thanks. Just don't get the hell with those people. So you can see them saying here, running against the wind, report on Black Lives Matter and staff experiences of race, gender, and intersectionality within the Welsh government. Great. Intersectional theory enacted by the government. Fantastic. I'm sure this is going to be wonderful. This was sent to me by Dr. Ella Hill, who has done previous work for us on the anti-white hate crimes, the data that has been hidden by the Home Office, and also she was a victim of the grooming gang scandal, I believe in Rotherham, if I'm getting that correct. So someone who has been a victim of anti-white hate that is just not recorded by our government, but again, is going to be completely ignored by the Welsh. She described this as the Race Equality Action Plan reads like an ISIS manifesto and effectively takes away all human rights from people referred to as white. And that caught my eye. So we went through it, and I sent it around the office as well. We just had fun pulling out the proposals that they have, which are just mad, and let's get into it. So if we go to the next one here, we have the diversity staff networks and their recommendations. Moving forwards, networks need to make sure they are reaching their aims and providing the necessary support to members affected by issues outlined above. Here we have collected suggestions for improving the focus groups in addition to a few further points of consideration. So they went to a bunch of focus groups that they segregated off and were like, hey, give us your thoughts as white people or brown people or whatever. And these are their recommendations. All diversity networks should be supported by relevant departments within the Welsh Government to have visibility in the organisation throughout the creation of effective branding and profiles. So you remember these like LGBT plus networks for the police that are not the police? No, they are. They're secret police. They work within the police and then are not officially having the same kind of responsibilities as the police. They want the same thing for race networks within the government at all levels. Housing, NHS, so on and so forth, anything you want.
So they've got like a secretive behind-the-scenes race council of sorts.
Yes, we've had it in the police for ages for these sort of things, and now we're getting
it
and everything else.
Sounds really promising.
But here's where it gets good. Create a subgroup for Black, Asian, minority ethnic women in the workplace, focused on creating a safe space and social peer support network. Just for Black women or BAME people in general, we're going to segregate them off their own little safe space because they can't be safe around white people. And they back this up by then demanding that we create a whiteness network, which will provide a safe space for white colleagues to discuss white privilege and to take responsibility for addressing racism and to create more awareness and strengthen allyships. We're going to have a whiteness network separated off from the subgroup where the BAMEs are going to go, and this is going to end racism.
Yes, segregating people into separate groups based on racial lines. That's going to end racism.
But also, what's the point here, right? So the Black segregated group are going to go off and talk about presumably how oppressed they are or something like that. And the white group are going to go and have a staff meeting about how they're so superior that just their mere existence is able to oppress the brown colleagues they have in their workplace. I mean, you can see the underlying network. I mean, as Carl has made the maxim, the critical race theorists view Black people as inferior and white people as evil. And I think you can see it somewhat in that treatment of the two different segregated spaces as well. Just like, well, the white people, we're going to go have a staff meeting about the things that we can do, whereas you guys are just going to go sit around in the pulpit or something for a bit. It's like, okay, Welsh government. They say in here, you can see Privilege Cafe as an example of what they want to do. and we'll get into Privilege Cafe in a minute. They also say of the Welsh government they need to increase diversity, remove barriers and supporting staff, name the barriers. The barriers are illegal, so name them. Because if you've done them, you've broken the law.
I think they mean self-perceived barriers, right? It's not actual barriers, not like tangible things that you can point at.
No.
It's just,
which
I feel like people are racist, therefore this is a barrier.
They got him. Got him one. Anyway, so we'll move on to the additional goals from the government in here as well. So, I mean, we started with segregation. I'm sure it will get much better. So the additional goals written here are, participants felt that there needed to be more availability of data on progression routes for Black, Asian, and minority ethnic staff in general, and particular Black, Asian, and minority ethnic female staff. Just do your job. And if you're good, you get promoted. That's how it works everywhere else. I don't know what else you want, because presumably that's how you should have it work. But
Even
no.
more affirmative action, apparently.
Yeah, we hired you on affirmative action, and then we want affirmative action for the promotions as well. Okay, great. So
Makes perfect sense.
They also say they want monitoring. So monitoring was also recommended as a way to help Black, Asian, minority ethnic people reach their potential at work. Sorry, mentoring, not monitoring. Mentoring. So we're going to have mentors come in.
We're going to teach. Here's your white mentor. They're going to teach you what to do.
Yes.
And this isn't going to be condescending whatsoever.
So everyone with brown skin in the Welsh government is going to get a white mentor who's going to help them reach their potential at work.
Oh, for goodness sake.
That's the race manifesto from the Welsh government. I mean, this is intersectional theory in practice. This is what people wanted. It is felt that informal learning opportunities can add value to training offers, and participants suggested starting book clubs or groups for peer learning around issues raised by BLM. So we're going to waste loads of money on loads of book clubs where people can talk about white fragility.
Explicitly mentioning Black Lives Matter as well. Great.
Yes, they have a definition of Black Lives Matter as well, which...
They have a definition of it.
Yes.
As if, it's not just a political group.
But
they need to define it themselves now.
It's madder than you think, because this is the government. Again, this is not just some lunatic organization of leftists. Well, I mean, same thing. But it's meant to be a neutral body that is meant to govern for the whole country. And instead, this is what they gave for their definition of BLM. If we get the next one up. They say, BLM was founded by Elisa Garcia, foreign words, Passery Colors, and Opal Tomeni as a result of the unjust acquittal of Trayvon Martin's murderer, George Zimmerman. I was like, okay, he was not found not guilty, I believe. So I don't know why they're passing judgment on the court case, but whatever. And then they continue, as the murder of Black civilians via state-sanctioned violence continued. Just stop there. Like, the American system is just police killing Black civilians, and the state sanctions all of this violence. Again, murders. The murder of Black civilians via state-sanctioned violence. That's how the Welsh government wants the American government to be viewed.
Well...
Like they're Belarus or something.
Why did the Welsh government even have an opinion on things that are going on in other countries? It's not like they have the power. They're just a devolved parliament, aren't they? And I mean, it's not like Wales is known for its large Black population. I'm sure that the 10 people that live there feel very protected by the Welsh government.
I think there's like one of them is writing the stuff and the other 9 are getting on with their lives. The point there being that you should see America essentially as, I don't know, like Nazi Germany. They're just killing Black people. That's basically the police's job. I mean, they got some speeding tickets on the side they have to hand out, but mostly just killing Black people.
Yeah, that's how they get their money.
Just all they do. Anyway,
where their heart is.
They go on to define intersectionality as well, and this is what I mean when we talk about some of the academic stuff. It is real. Like, it ends up in government documents. It's not just on college campuses, bro. Like, it ends up with them coming up with these policies. Anyway, they stay in here, which is quite nice of them to say. In fact, as stated in the Black Lives Matter mission above, intersectionality is integral as the movement was started by 3 Black women, and its aims to represent all Black people, regardless of sexuality, gender identity, nationality, status, etc. So that's the plus of the LGBT plus there, just whatever. However, more recently, Black Lives Matter has been criticized for centering the plight of Black men.
What?
I love that.
Who's been saying that? Who?
This is the circular firing squad at work, Of course, well, I mean, yeah, they are Black, but they are men. So, basically privileged. Anyway, so they say in here that this was a problem, and this prompted Kimberly Crenshaw, who came up with the term, to create the #SayHerName14 campaign, an offshoot of the Black Lives Matter movement, to address the imbalance and invisibility of Black women victims of state-sanctioned violence, which will then have another offshoot, which goes on to Black trans victims of state-sanctioned violence and Black homosexual victims. It never ends. But what's weird is she should see this coming. I mean, anyone should see this coming, but they just ignore it and move on. But also nice of them to explicitly state that BLM is an intersectionalist organization and movement.
Yeah, normally you have to kind of figure that out for yourself, but they've actually
You ask them in
just put
public.
it in black and white. Yeah,
It's like getting blood from a stone. But when they say it in a government document, there's okay, great. Well, I'll just quote that in future. So there's also the point, of course, that Crenshaw being name dropped. If we go to the next one, we have if we can scroll down on this, there's just the fact that she is talking about setting up those segregated spaces. To the last one, please. And while you have Crenshaw's works being mentioned, I mean, you see the one there, demarginalizing the intersection of race and sex. We actually have a premium podcast on that. Carl did the reading on that and went through it. It's mad, as all these things are. But go and have that. Check out on the website. Anyway, if we go on, we have, of course, the goals by 2030. What is Wales going to look like?
I dread to think what they've put here, to be honest.
Well, I have a bunch of ideas. So by 2030, BAME people will have, again, as if it's a shopping list, security that hate crime in the media, including social media, will no longer occur.
Just going to remove all negative interactions.
I mean, it's like when David Cameron said, I've made poverty illegal. Fantastic, mate. It's gone. It's done. But also just the idea that if you wanted to achieve that, you'd have to institute like a Chinese firewall on the internet. Because again, they're saying no hate crime on social media. Well, I mean, you people think Count Dankula is a hate criminal. They also say they want to see the first BAME First Minister. I don't know if that's a separate title, so you have the First Minister and then the BAME First Minister, maybe. Anyway, they also say
they're going to be mentored by the proper First Minister, as they put it.
Mark Draper will be the mentor, and then you'll have the BAME Minister who is being mentored. So they also want to see, they say in here that they don't want to be seen that media can no longer shoehorn us into a box as entertainers or slaves.
The only two professions open to black people, apparently, according to, or BAME people, should I say.
I mean, we were laughing about that in the office
Wales.
when John read it out, because we were just like, it's like if some foreigner, like someone in Chile or some alien, had been told about the West and it's racist, so they just started making up stuff. Like, the media, they just portray black people as entertainers and slaves. What? What are you living in? Like, whatever. So if we continue, we have some other demands or threats. I don't know how to put them. So if we go to the next one, we have by 2030, the Welsh government will have. So what's the Welsh government going to do? Ensure that acts of microaggressions are a thing of the past. So this is someone saying, where are you from?
Great.
So no more conversations that may ever slightly offend someone. Again, microaggressions. The
doesn't make any sense at all.
Slight upset of being asked, oh, you're different. Because you are. But anyway, they also say they want to use the levers that they have of positive action to their full extent in here. It's right at the bottom there. You can see use the levers they have for example, positive action to their full. And that means, of course, positive discrimination, racial discrimination in favor of brown-skinned people over white-skinned people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What's funny is they kind of contradict themselves in the next statement. So we go to the next one. They also have just the next paragraph, and I'll highlight there. Confidence that we will be recruited on merit, through processes that are transparent and open, and no need to keep proving ourselves or to be appointed as a black token or window dressing to the service. Right, so I want to be a black token. I want positive discrimination, but also I don't want people to see me as a black token. Pick one.
Anyway. This is just so terrible. How are they?
I imagine there's
going
going to be
straight face.
a lot of face palming looking at this. But anyway, move on. We have some more demands. So by 2030, BAME people will also have in the next one stimulated conversations that white people needed to have to come to terms with white privilege and white fragility. I have no idea what that even means. You've had a stimulated conversation with someone about race?
What is...
I'm assuming because
this is like torture.
They're name-dropping white fragility, of course, the book, and this is someone just saying they want to berate white people for being white, because that is what this comes down to. But also, if we talk about brown privilege, such as getting positive discrimination in your favor, and then demanding that people don't see you that way, what about brown fragility? Who's writing this? Like, who's the person who decided they were going to write a race manifesto for all the privileges they should have in society?
Well, it was Mark Drakeford, wasn't it? Was one of the authors of this.
Well, it's the diversity industry. I think he just put his name on it, as politicians usually do. Anyway. So if we move on, we have some more, which is funny. A situation where people no longer get asked, where do you come from? But are accepted for their commitment to Wales and seen so as Welsh. So foreigners want to be seen as Welsh, presumably as soon as they get off the boat. No, it's not going to happen. There are native Welsh people who have been there for thousands of years. and therefore are going to be seen as more Welsh.
Didn't they recently say that the Welsh language is also racist? Just in existing, right?
I think probably. I'm just going to take the guess.
Oh my god.
Let's go to the other demands, which again, I'm laughing, but this is actually going to become...
No, this is really depressing, actually. Like
this is right next door to us, and it's going to become the law. That's the worst part. So they say in here, the first part here being tackle microaggressions, encourage allyship, and blah, 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 blah. Last one is the funniest. Regular audit by external, independent experts to assess lived experiences of black, Asian, and minority ethnic staff and service users. Sorry, we're going to have, like, racial Gestapo come round and interview the black staff about their lived
experience as well. So what are they going to do? Just evaluate that and just be like, yes, whatever you say is gospel. We've got to listen to this. All hail at the altar.
But also, what's satisfactory? Like, what do they want? What are they expecting to get out of that? It's just like, so, black person, tell me what it's like being black. Leave me alone. I'm trying to stack shelves. But
yeah, I mean, what are they expecting to get out of this exactly?
I don't know, but I mean, if you're living in Wales, I mean, there's a cushy job there as being a racial auditor for the government, in which all you do is just go around and ask black people how they feel. Fantastic. I get paid.
How are you feeling today? How's your day been?
Oh god, they say also including the differential experiences of ethnic minority women to be published with action plan to respond to recommendations. So more wasted money on bureaucrats to write up those racial audits that are going to be carried out by government employees. Fantastic. They also say they're going to implement this through CEOs. So if you run a public body, so CEOs of all public bodies to identify one inclusion and diversity objective where they focus on anti-racism. So you're going to be forced to push this through all of your companies as well. And then I just thought we'd look at like the data on this, because if we go to the next one, this is just the data for the population of Wales, right?
Okay.
And you have all this stuff which is just illegal and mad. But who are they doing it for? So they say in here, 5.2% of the population identify themselves as black, Asian, minority, ethnic. Like, okay, what is that? And if you just run it through just what is Wales's population, 156,000 people. Smaller than Swindon.
Is it really?
Yeah.
No way.
So it's a group of people who would, if they made a town, would be smaller than Swindon. And we're going to basically just throw out all discrimination law and bring in racial Gestapo, segregated spaces, and also funding for God knows who else to do what. All for that. I was like, right.
It seems like the Welsh government's got too much time on its hands, to be honest.
And too much money.
Well, they've published this entire report for essentially a very small minority of people, which, by the sounds of it, have a pretty cushy time anyway, with all the affirmative action laws already in place.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned BAME people, as they would say, people with brown skin. It's not them. It's never for them. No, it's for a collection of individuals who are getting cash, fat stacks. So if we go to the next one, we have just some reporting on this, which is from the Welsh government, working with the BAME community and partners and blah, 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 blah. And they say in here, so if we stop there, so they say that they've awarded Moya Solman, who instituted the Virtual Privilege Cafe at the beginning of the lockdowns and has been awarded £5,000 for funding.
Virtual Privilege Cafe?
Virtual Privilege Cafe.
So it's not even a real cafe.
There is no cafe.
A virtual one, but it's still a cafe. So how do they serve their drinks?
So you can see the quote there from her. This is her responding to this, and they put this up on the website. Every week, I host a themed Zoom conversation which encourages participants to talk about their lived experiences. It has been amazing in terms of engagement, with over 200 people, 200 whole people attending.
Out of what, 156,000 or whatever it was?
$5,000 to host Zoom calls.
Oh, this is taxpayer money, isn't it?
This is your money. Well, my money too. Well, oh god, but I just there's 200 people in a Zoom call. She gets paid $5,000 to sit there and listen to it. Again, good job if you can get it. And I thought we'd just take a quick look at Privilege Cafe because, of course, they're on social media. They also have their own Patreon, which they're not even just getting money from the state. They're also taking cash from retarded leftists. So, I mean, more to that. But what are they up to? So if we go on Twitter, we just have a quick look at this nonsense in case you needed it, proving that this is a waste of time, which is them saying that they're very upset that the N-word exists in Of Mice and Men. Like, if you scroll down that fourth picture there, they're just like, yeah, the N-word is in Of Mice and Men 9 times. It's also in To Kill a Mockingbird 48 times.
But isn't racism the focal point of To Kill a Mockingbird? I've read the book, and it's not painting racism in a good light, is it? It's painting racists negatively. That's the entire purpose of the book, and portraying the language used accurately is kind of the integral element of the book in the first place.
It's like whining about Django Unchained because the N-word is used in Django Unchained, and it's like, yeah, it's kind of part of the set.
Surely they should be advocating for things like this, not the other way round.
Well, no.
It's ridiculous.
Because people are having fun, I guess. So we move on. We also have them promoting illegal immigration because, of course, they are. They're a bunch of leftists. So, yeah, why not? And then if we move on, we just have them also talking about whites being inferior. So being part of a global activism in an all-white team, thinking face, raising awareness of violence against all women requires collaborative working from all women, including staff, representative of the communities they serve. An all-white team isn't global. Hashtag representation matters.
Because, of course, the colour of your skin dictates how well you can represent the interests of other people. Yeah, like empathy doesn't exist. You have no capacity to understand other people.
No, which is why slavery's still around. Just white people never had any sympathy for anyone who wasn't white. So we just carried on doing it. No.
How can people actually buy into this? It's
they get
depressing.
Cash. That's the best part.
Oh, yeah, I suppose it is just one big grift, isn't it?
Yeah. So if we move on, we also have them screeching about white panelists existing, but we'll not waste too much time on that because you get the point. They're also religious bigots. So this is whoever runs the account moaning, and they say, I've called 8 hairdressers, and so far none of them provide a screen private area for women who are not comfortable with mixed salons. Mixed salons on racial basis? No. For religious reasons.
What?
She's not happy being in a salon and having her hair done with dirty kuffars around her.
Oh, right.
So that can't happen. I mean, she could be in a salon with all women, and that would be Islamic. But no, there are still dirty kuffars there, presumably touching her hair.
Could this person be any worse?
I mean, they can try. I'm sure they'll do it. And then just the last couple of things to mention is just them being mad and mask off moment
yes,
here.
Give us jobs.
Yes, give jobs, management jobs, director jobs, not tokenism, but value. And then the last bit there. For example, how many of these organizations are led or run by a Somali woman from Butu Town? And that only from Butu Town. You've got to go for Butu Town. But again, it just proves the sinkhole of this ideology.
So what, a Somali woman from Butu Town, like they've got the racist equation out. They've been able to calculate everywhere around the world, this is the most oppressed place.
If you're a Somali woman from Mogadishu, too bad. Not diverse enough. Need to be from Butu Town. Yeah. Anyway, and then I thought I'd mention this isn't the first time either. So we've covered this before, but I have to bring it back up with the Welsh because it's just, they've gone full into it. And this is when they were doing COVID grants. And as you can see here, they have priority allocation for those most affected from the COVID-19 outbreak. Disabled people, women, people from BAME backgrounds. Basically the same categories.
What an insult.
Are you disabled or a woman? And we were having the joke. It's just like, could you imagine being like, with little hats and being like, please be patient, I'm a woman. Like, instead of I have autism.
Dear.
That's the Welsh government for you. And a bunch of people got money out of that as well. Because, again, that's how these things are really funded. But I had to talk about that because it's so humorous that they've actually gone fully into intersectional theory to the point of publishing a racial manifesto. And they're going to enact it by 2030. God, I love the future. If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site.
We've got loads on there, and it's all really, really good. For example, we have regular premium articles that discuss contemporary events, and we have an audio track for our silver and gold tier members. And of course, we have our regular series on there. We've got Contemplations, which is Josh and whoever he wants to have talk to him about a particular topic. On this one, he's talking to Bo, about in-group preference. Moving on. Bo and myself also do the Epoch series, which says talking about history. This one's Belisarius Part 3, because Belisarius was a 6th century Byzantine general, and he had an amazing career and a genuinely tragic end. And the myth of him is old blind Belisarius begging on the streets of Rome would have been better than what happened to him, but I won't spoil it. I'll let you I'll let you find out. And of course, we do our regular book club as well this month. I don't know how often we do them actually. Fairly regularly. It takes a while to read a book. But this is Callum doing John Stuart Mill's On Liberty, in which I rail against utilitarianism. I used to be a huge fan of John Stuart Mill, like 5-10 years ago. And since then, I've really soured on utilitarianism. And so the framing of his arguments, I find kind of insufferable. He's not wrong in what he's arguing for, but it's the way he's doing it. But anyway, we also do a bunch of premium podcasts, things that are entertaining, we think, like the politics of Star Trek that I did with John, talking about, well, is Star Trek a socialist paradise or not? It turns out it's not, but it's something different. post-scarcity liberalism, basically. But that's a really good podcast. And we also have to put up things on the website that we can't actually put on YouTube because YouTube has editorial policies about things such as where all these heart attacks are coming from. Giant elephant in the room. It's probably climate change. Don't worry about it. We also have fascinating interviews from really interesting people, such as this one, which is an activist called Luke Avery, who's a Christian, but don't worry, he's not Bible thumping in this. What he's doing is talking about the ancient wisdom in the biblical book of Proverbs, and it's very much daddish sort of stuff, and I really enjoyed doing this one. And I think I'll have him back in, hopefully, to do another one, Ecclesiastes or something. And hopefully we'll do another one soon.
And if you want to keep up with us, you can follow us on getter.com. I love the phrase and getter doing, something like that. I don't know.
You're doing really well on there, though, aren't you? You've got like 11,000 followers.
So come follow me on Getter. Come follow you on Getter.
Yeah. And lotuses.com on Getter.
Lotuses_com on there. Let's go check that out. And also the conference itself. So this is a conference being put on by the Getter guys. This is on the December the 8th. So update on this, the Getter conference has been postponed until further notice. We will let people know as soon as we have more information. Apparently it was postponed thanks to the global freakout in response to the Omicron variant. So sorry about that. So if you'd like to get access to all that premium content, you can subscribe at lotuseaters.com. Thank you and goodbye.